Welcome back to Five Friday Feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you had a chance to go back and listen to our second episode of the Five Crash Course Remastered, where we went through what is financial independence, how do you reach it, step by step. Now, I promise you, if you did listen to that, that is the most math one that we're going to talk about. I think there was quite a bit of math, but Dominic, do you think that we went overboard, or do you think it was doable for the average person?
I think it was doable. Did people enjoy the math? I don't know. Some people really they don't enjoy math that much, so it's kind of person by person.
Yeah. Well, at least we try to do it as best as we could, try to simplify it. So if you haven't listened to Monday's episode, we talked about the 4% rule, why your savings rate is the most important part of your driver to financial independence. It really is your superpower. And we closed out at least, about even though we harp on savings rate, even though we harp on making sure that you spend your money in a way that is in accordance with your values and what you get out of life, it also doesn't mean that we sacrifice today to live for tomorrow. We have to make sure that we have the balance. And that's the hardest part in this journey of financial independence. The hardest part about finding someone that aligns with you, of who teaches me, who helps guide me on this path. Because every single person, every financial quote unquote expert, professional, whatever, says this is the only way to do it. And that's something that I want to talk about a little bit more philosophical as to why that is. But before we get there, Dominic, was there anything on last podcast where we talked about all the numbers that you want to maybe revisit?
Ooh, numbers wise, I think we're gonna get into a little bit of it. I really enjoyed that 4% rule. I feel like that's super actionable, super easy to understand, as well as like the burn rate. A lot of the math we did, right? Say math. It wasn't like super high level. Right? It wasn't crazy. It was mostly like multiplication and adding and dividing stuff. So not that crazy of math. So, if you have a fear of math, it's time to face it. Go back to episode number 2 on Monday's episode. No, I think the math was really simple. I think it was really actionable. I have a bunch of notes here, ready and excited to take on today's podcast. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think back to when I was starting my journey to financial independence. And this is when I was working 50 hours a week, maybe even 60 hours a week, hating my life, just thinking that in order to finally get good with money, to finally be free, I just had to grind. And if it didn't suck, then I wasn't doing it right. And I remember listening to a lot of people back then about like, how much money do you need? And this is when I didn't know much about finances. And they would say like, you need $15 million, $20 million. And for me, it was like, okay, I was crazy enough to believe that like that is true. And I was dumb enough to be like, I can do it. So everything that I did was just like, I cut my life down to like nothing, to like hit these crazy hard numbers. And then it was when I learned about the FIRE movement. They talked about savings rate. And I heard about the 4% rule, and the 4% rule is just the inverse of 25 times your annual income. So I knew how much I was spending. And back then it was like $60,000 a year. So remember, my goal in my mind was I somehow need to make like 20 or $30 million to be able to retire. Well, when I found out about the 4% rule, and then I found out the inverse, 25 times your annual expenses, and I knew that my income or my expenses are $60,000 a year. Well, you times 25 times 60,000, that's $1.5 million. And when I had that number of $1.5 million, that was like a solid number based off of me, it gave me so much hope, so much ability to be like, I can actually achieve that. 20 million, 30 million, some nebulous number. I don't know if I could ever achieve some nebulous number, but a specific number to me was huge. So I hope that our listeners, as they hear that story, they can be like, oh my God. So like, if I look at my income and I'm spending, I don't know, $100,000 a year, and $100,000 a year is something that for most people, I would say $100,000 is a good living. It's a really solid living. You times that by 25, and now we're at $2.5 million in order to retire. So I think this 25 times really gives you so much power. Like $100,000 is an amazing lifestyle for most people. Times that at least gets you $2.5 million to retire off of. I know that seems like a daunting number, but $2.5 million is much greater or much less than $100 million or $15 million or some nebulous number that means absolutely nothing to you and your life. And I think you made a good point, Dominic, when you were saying that there's a lot of financial experts that go out there and they'll tout these huge numbers. And maybe that number is right for them. maybe for Susie Irwin or Ermin, whatever her name is, maybe for Dave Ramsey, maybe for saying like, you need this much money, maybe that's for their lifestyle. But for you to apply their lifestyle to you, it's not going to work. That's why so many people get misled by so many financial advisors or financial professionals. And that's really what I want to talk about today. Why is it so hard to find good financial advice?
I think everybody is just using their own experiences, right? And thrusting it upon everyone else. I mean, you might be thinking, well, that's just the little guys. It's like, no, Dave Ramsey is the same way. The reason he's all like, no debt, all debt's bad, is because he used debt and he got wiped out. And it makes sense why he got wiped out, right? If you don't know his story, when he was young, he became very successful in real estate, had a bunch of real estate portfolio, and the bank got bought out by another bank, right? And when they saw this 23-year-old kid with $2 million of loans, well, they didn't like that. So what they did was they called a due on sale clause, right? Basically, I believe that's what it was called, which basically means, hey, I want all of my money now. And it's like, there's a reason I got the loan, because I didn't have the money, right? So he got wiped out, right? Thus souring him to debt. All debt is bad. It's what his whole like spiel is, right? And then, globalizing that and then brainwashing everyone that is the worst thing in the world, right? Debt is bad and it is good. It just is, right? It just depends on how you use it, right? Credit card debt, bad debt. Debt that brings you in income, good debt, right? Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast, a whole nother system. But people love to create their own realities and thrust that onto other people, right? Whether that's a good reality or a bad reality, right? So it really depends. And you always have to watch out for the information that you're taking in to make sure that it's quality. But how do you know if it's quality? You kind of have to just be in the sphere. You have to be in the game, right? How do you know if someone's cheating in the game? Well, you got to be in the game long enough to understand what cheating would look like, right? So you really just have to engulf yourself in the world of finance and really in the world of anything you do in order to get the best picture of what's really going on.
Yeah. And that makes it so hard because many people who are coming for advice, they're looking for guidance. They don't know what they don't know. So being able to envelop yourself in this world to know like, okay, this is maybe misleading or this is just someone's opinion that they're presenting as fact. It's so difficult to do until you have enough time under your belt. And that's the reason we wanted to start the podcast, is to tell people these are things that have worked for other people and really give you a bunch of different nuances. And I think the human brain hates nuance. We want certainty. We crave certainty. And I think that's why most financial experts, most financial people that go out there and say, this is what you must do, it's because it worked for them. It worked for them or something didn't work for them. And God forbid that what they did is working, but isn't the right way. That there might be a better way out there to do things. So they have to present certainty so that they can say, at least internally, subconsciously, that at least I'm right. Everything else might be wrong, but at least that I am right. And is that really a problem with the system, or is it a problem with the individual? Because we can talk about, the 80, there's the envelope method, there's the 50-30-20 rule. There's all of these different ways of going about it. And the messed up part is that they all work. You just need to figure out what is right for you. And it's difficult when everyone is saying that, no, that way doesn't work. This is the only way that works. When in truth, they all work. They all have their little trade-offs. They all have their nuances, and they all work. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is how much money you're making minus how much money you're spending. Those are the two important things. And every single one just tries to complicate it or add a few things onto it in order to dilute you, to tell you that in order to be able to make it, you have to follow only my system. And then you'll also have to think about incentives. What is the person trying to sell? Are they trying to sell a course or their investments or whatever? It just makes it so difficult if you're not a person who is in the muck, in the arena, as it were, in order to figure out where do I need to go from here.
100%. No, 100%. And I love the analogy that was used on Monday's episode, right? Say you're going to the gym, you're new, you're trying to get healthy, right? But all it's like, well, all I know is there's Pilates, right? And you go to Pilates and you get destroyed. I mean, you get destroyed, right? Witchcraft is what they're doing up in there. It's crazy stuff, right? Truly medieval. And you're like, you come home and you're sore for like a week. You're like, dude, I don't want to do this. This is terrible. Like, there has to be another way. It's like, yes, there's multiple different ways, right? You go for a run, you go for a swim, you can join a jiu-jitsu gym, right? You can, you can lift weights, right? There's so many different ways, right, to be healthy in that regard. Same with finance, right? You might have done it's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to eat beans and rice for the next however long it takes. And when we're out of it, we'll have steaks. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, a strategy, no doubt, for sure. Kind of just one of the many strategies, right? Would I recommend it? Not necessarily. Would I disapprove of it? A little bit. But there's just, and I hate the adage, but there's a million ways to skin a cat. Poor cat. It didn't need to be skinned, but there's a million ways to skin a cat. And you just have to find your way that works for you, right? Some people are willing to give up their subscriptions, right? Some people it's like, hey, I worked a long day, $6 a month, $7 a month. It's worth it to me to come home and watch, Frasier for 3 hours, to each his own. I can't watch Frasier. What's the deal with that? Anyway, but yeah, I think, what we were talking about before is there's just so many different ways to do it. And you have to find your way. And you might find it from listening to us, might find it from listening to someone else, but you're definitely going to find it by doing it yourself and trying different things. So don't just listen, right? What do we always say on the podcast? We always say that education without action is just entertainment, right? Got it first try. Got it first try. I'm on a streak now. I'm on a streak. I'm on a streak. I'm two for like 15, but hey, I'm on a 2-win streak right now. For those who don't know, every time we kind of say that little quote, it gets jumbled up. It's a messy one. It's a messy one. So appreciate the boom on the back end. Much appreciated on that one.
So yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about on Monday's episode. A lot of the numbers, how to do it. The 4% rule, I think, is just a godsend. It gives you a direction. Remember, it's not a rule. It's not a hard and fast truth. Like, okay, my expenses are $40,000. I make $1 million. I'm going to go inside. I'm going to poop on my boss's desk and I'm going to leave because I have the money now to survive. That's not the way it works. But it gives you a direction. And at least it's not $20 million, $30 million, and it's based more to you. Now, before you retire, you need to do more things. There is a lot more to this than just that, but at least it makes it simple. It's dirty. It gets you started. And sometimes the most important thing is just getting started, and you'll figure out the perfect plan along the way. But if you're the kind of person who says, I can't start until I have the perfect plan, you will never get started because there is no perfect plan. Life is not perfect. Messiness will come in. But that 4% rule, which again, 4% of whatever investment amount you have, you can pull off of with a 98% certainty that it will work. And if you want to drop it down to 3%, I think the thing goes up to like 99.8%. So you can even drop it more. There are different ways of playing this game. But just remember, instead of looking at your income, instead of looking at all these things, your spending rate, how much you spend annually is what really dictates things. So rather than focusing on what you can't control, focus on what you can control. Focus on your spending. Times that by 25. That's a number to start shooting for. That's a place to start messy, start often. But most importantly, just get freaking started.
Beautifully said, Chris. Beautifully said. And with that being said, we're going to be moving on to our viewer mailbag. Anything else to add before we go there, Chris? Awesome. Let's do it. So this is the part of the podcast where a viewer will write in. We try to give our best advice and help them out in their real world situation that they're going through. So for today's letterhead, I need help with these mortgage troubles and I am feeling defeated. Brutal. Howdy, Fi guys. I've been a longtime listener and admirer, there you go, not an admiral, admirer of your work. I've never imagined that I'd be writing in, but I'm at a really low point and I could use some honest feedback. I've owned my home for about 6 years now. I've never missed a single payment until now. In early May, I was unexpectedly laid off. As a single income homeowner, I usually make a good enough living to stay on top of things. But the sudden loss of income has hit hard. I thought I'd bounce back rather quickly and return to work within a month or so, but that hasn't happened yet. I've been doing whatever it takes, side jobs, just to get by. But despite my best efforts, I'm now a week away from being 60 days late on my mortgage. I'm trying to scrape together enough to at least stay above the 30-day mark, but I'm not sure I'm going to make it. I've applied for forbearance, but that takes about 30 days to review, and I don't know if I'm going to qualify. I've tried to avoid asking for help, but I'm at the point now where I feel like I have no choice. My home is worth about 60K more than what I owe, so I've considered selling it just to pay off all my debts and start over. But I'm 35 years old, and the idea of starting from scratch is terrifying. My main question is, will life be ruined credit-wise if I go 60 days late? Will paying off all my debts by selling the house eventually rebound my credit? I'm scared of what this means long term, and I feel like I failed. I would really love your perspective, your financial and emotional advice. I've been beating myself up, and I just want to know if there's a way that doesn't completely derail my life. Thanks for everything that you do. Please keep doing what you are doing. People like me
Wow.
really need it more than you know. From mortgages late, feeling the weight.
It's
Chris,
definitely
is it
not too late. Man, that sucks.
Wow.
Like, getting laid off is tough, especially if you're in a single hold household. Like, it's all tough. Do you have anything to say on this, Dominic, before I kind of get into my spiel and take over the podcast?
Yeah. Because I know once Chris gets started, he's the meat and potatoes, right? I'm the side entree. So he's going to bulldoze you with all the facts and everything. But I got to give my 2 cents in before that goes down. I think for people who have a job and are comfortable in their job, they don't know what it's like getting a new job. Let me tell you, it's brutal out there. It is brutal. I mean, it's quite literally, throwing a ball into the wind and like hearing nothing. Like, bad analogy, but you understand. Like, it is just it's brutal out there, right? Recently I've been on the path of like, hey, like I want a better job. I just want a better job so I can continue to level up, right? As we all would like to do. And I've been sending out resumes, and I'm talking like, not just like I have one resume. It's like, no, I'm making each resume custom for each job, right? Fine tuning the crap out of it best I can. And crickets, right? I'll hear like 1 or 2 things back, right? And there was one job where I was like, man, I finally got a call back. I got an interview. This is amazing. Right? A glimmer of hope. Only a week later to say that they've gone in another direction, right? Very unfortunate. But, this is why it's so important to build up that emergency fund. This is why it's so important to know your numbers, right? How much is going out? How much is coming in? How long can we survive just on, X amount of dollars, right? So it's so important. I also want to talk a little bit about, real quick before we get into, your bulk of the information, Chris, is how much weight he's putting on his credit score. It's not like if your credit score and I don't know if like this is like an uncommon thing to know. This because for us it's common, but maybe for everyone else it's not as common. But when your credit score dips below, say, 650, right, or 600, right, there's not going to be a man that comes to your house and like beats your knees in. Like your kneecaps are going to be fine. Like there's nobody going to like break your arm or hold your daughter ransom. Hopefully, I mean, hopefully, I don't know what kind of loan you guys are getting, but usually the good ones, without the land sharks, they're not going to come and bust your kneecaps. But credit scores are definitely super important. They're very important, no doubt. I'm not downplaying their importance on everything from buying a house to buying a car to just a small look into your financial health. Right. And it's just a small picture because you can have a good credit score and a horrible financial, outlook, right? And a horrible financial situation. I would say don't be afraid of starting over if that's what it takes. Sometimes life throws you a curveball and it's going to continue throwing you curveballs, and take it on the chin. And I don't know if you're a guy or girl, whatever. It's character building. And I know that it's like the worst thing to hear when you're in the thick of like crap. Like I know I would hate hearing that, right? It pissed me off. It's like, man, screw you, man. You're in a house. Your stuff's paid for. It pisses me off. It pisses me off saying it, but it's true though. how you frame it is going to be very important, because as we know, life is 90% how you react to it, and 10% is just, you got nothing to do with it, right? It's just going to happen. So it's all about how you react to it. But the how is what we're going to get into. That's why Chris is here, right? The man with all the knowledge, the wise old owl. So Chris, let's get into the how.
Yeah, I don't know about all.
What can they do?
But before I get into the how, I do want to talk about one thing that I found very interesting, and this is what I find a lot with coaching people, is when life gets out of control. This person lost their job, they're late on their mortgage, all these things. We as human beings have this sense that we need to control something. We grasp onto something that oftentimes from the outside looking into, maybe Dominic and I, seems completely arbitrary and random. So for this person, it sounds like they locked on to my credit score. Like, you have bigger issues than your credit score, but the thing that our writer has focused on is the credit score. This is what I must grab control of. Like, the house is burning down around me, but at least I have my lamp. Like, that's the way it kind of feels to me. It's like, I need to control this one thing. So I just want to make sure that's clear, is that sometimes if you find yourself inside of a situation like this, you might seek out to control something that in the end is not the most important thing to control. And that is just normal. So to our writer, first off, I want to thank you for writing in, and know that you're not alone. What you're going through is something that many people have faced. And I respect you for being honest and vulnerable about it. That takes a lot of strength, because I know that you said that you hope to never have to reach out to somebody, that you're someone who didn't want to ask for help. But the first step of getting help is asking for it. So congratulations, because now at least we can give you some information. We're not going to be able to fix it, but at least something to maybe help you. Because getting laid off, especially unexpectedly, is a major life disruption, especially when you're a single income household. So you feeling overwhelmed, that is completely normal. You're not weak in any way, shape, or form. You're a freaking human being, and human beings are going to go through things. And just like Dominic said, it's how you're going to react to it and get through it. I know that us saying that right now makes you be like, F these guys, they're not telling me what to do to fix it. And we're going to get there in a little bit, but nothing that we can say right now is going to fix this situation. Only you can, by going on a journey to be the hero of your own story and figuring it out. So let's talk about your mortgage situation. I understand that being 60 days late to you feels huge, but it doesn't mean your life or your credit score is ruined forever. Yes, you are correct. It likely will take a hit, your credit score, but damage is not permanent. Credit scores are meant to reflect life events, and life event also includes recovery. Eventually you will get out of this. And I understand that when you're in the tunnel, when you're in it seems like there is no light. But all you can do when you're in the darkest place is just keep walking, because eventually there will be change. In all of life, there is the one constant is change. Just think about this. You've built equity in your home, and that equity is a real freaking asset. I think you said you have $60,000 of equity. That equity, that good work that you put in the past, that gives you options. Selling the house to paying off the debt would not make you a failure. It's a strategic reset if you so choose to do that. With that being said, though, before selling the house, we really need to make sure that it's truly the best move for your life long term. Now, I don't know what industry you're in, but how likely are you to find work again? Could you weather the storm with some forbearance or temporary income for a little bit? Because I don't know, maybe you're in like tech or something like that, and AI just came and disrupted all of your jobs. Can you pivot? Can you go and work as a trade? Can you, I don't know, go and be a apprentice, DoorDash, apprentice plumber, freaking go to work at Costco. I don't know. Can you do something just to make something? There was a time, Dominic, and I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast, where before we moved back here to San Diego, that we needed some extra income. Yeah. And I was like, what job should I get? And I told you, I'm going to go and be a personal trainer for a little bit. And I remember you saying to me, Dominic, like, why would you do that? That's crazy. Like, you have all these other things. Why would you want to waste your time doing that? And I was like, because extra income is extra income. And the way that I get through this is going to be helpful, not just for right now, but in the long term. Valuable skills, more friends, and an ability to go and work out every day at a really nice gym.
No, I think you're spot on. It's flipping the mindset of, hey, like, we were comfortable and we got caught being comfortable. And life, it'll expose you sometimes, right? There's this Warren Buffett quote. I always forget it, but it's something about like, only when the tide goes out do you see who's swimming naked.
Do you see naked?
And it's true, right? And I'm not saying, oh, hey, you should have planned for this, right? It's like, dude, how can you plan for something like this? Well, you could have an emergency fund, right? But I'm not going to armchair quarterback about the past, but just, forewarning for those who are comfortable. Like most of us are comfortable, right? It's a very dangerous, very, very, very dangerous place to be, is to be comfortable. You never want to be comfortable. And I hope you understand what I'm saying when I say comfortable. I'm not saying that you shouldn't enjoy, a show or a game, or like you shouldn't like relax. Like that's not what I'm saying. Like I hope you guys understand what I mean when I say you shouldn't be comfortable, right? You should always pursue more, not necessarily more money, but just to become more, right? And you never want to be caught lacking, right? What I was gonna say was, you're gonna have to change how you see things for a while, and know that this isn't gonna be forever, right? But this is a new season that we're gonna have to go into. And hey, like, just have an honest conversation with yourself in the mirror. Just look at yourself and like, hey, this season is gonna suck a little bit, and that's okay, because this is the story that makes it great, right? A story is only as great as the troubles that are in it. If your life was peaches and cream, there was nothing to overcome. Well, was it really a grand story? There's this quote. It's such a great quote. I believe it was by Seneca. And it says, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." And this advice that I'm giving, Chris's advice is super actionable. It's brass tacks. It's great advice, right? My advice is like, I'm just gonna piss you off. It's like it's annoying. It's super annoying. It's really annoying, but it's very much needed, right? Because you can go through a situation like this and literally just hate yourself. Truly, I mean, just hate yourself. And think like, bro, this suffering sucks. This sucks, man. Or you can start to change the way you're seeing it and use that suffering for good, right? Suffering is going to happen whether we like it or not, guys. And that's life. Suffering is life. Life is suffering, right? Not the whole of it, but many parts of it. And when times like this come, it's important to be appreciative of it, right? It's important to be grateful for it. Suffering can always get worse, right? So there's this thing where, you might be sick in the hospital, right, with a broken arm. Dude, it could be so much worse. Go down the hall 3 doors, right? You'll see someone fighting for their life, right? So I think it's always important to remember that, hey, like, I know you feel entitled to be pouty and woe is me and play the victim. We've all been there. We've all wanted to play the victim because it feels, in a weird way, it feels good, but you get no power from it. You get no power from it. And honestly, it's a bitch move. Like, I try not to cuss on the stream, but it's a bitch move. Like, take control of the reins, right? And I understand the credit score thing. I'm kind of going off on a little bit of a rant here, but I understand why you're so worried about the credit score and what Chris was talking about. It's like you're trying to grab onto one thing you can hold on to control. I understand that so much, right? Just make sure you don't lose focus of the real goal, trying to save this smaller goal, right? So that's kind of my spiel. I know that's not as actionable as what Chris was mentioning, but I feel like it still was important, and it still needed to be said for all of us to always reframe. Use everything in life to your advantage. If your car got totaled, use it to your advantage. Good. This gives me a chance to focus on what really matters in life, and the fact that, hey, this car was destroyed. Cool. Well, I escaped with my life, right? Use every advantage to your benefit in whatever way possible, right? If you can do that, dude, that's going to be a superpower for you in the long run. Chris, what else do you have to say about this one?
No, I know that you said that didn't, what you were saying wasn't specific to this person, but in many ways it was. And I think in all ways it was. I think that all of our listeners can hear that. And I think of this old Myoto Miyoto Musashi quote, the one who sees the way broadly, the one who knows the way broadly sees it in all things. Yes, maybe this person can say, oh, well, Dominic wasn't really talking to me, Chris was, but you can take that advice that you just gave Dominic and apply it to anything in life. And those broader truths are what we're really looking for. That's what's going to get you through it. And I love that you likened where he's at or she is at to a season. What do we know about seasons? Seasons pass. Yes, at some points it's going to be winter and it's going to be dark a lot more and it's going to suck. But eventually spring will come. All you have to do is keep on working, keep on fighting, and keep on going through that. So I want to talk about forbearance because that's something that our listener talked about. I think it's such a smart move that you've already applied. Even if it takes 30 days to kick in, it shows the lender that you're engaged and you're trying to work things out. And I promise you that that actually matters because the lenders are looking for people that are engaging. So note, whatever you do, communicating with the lender is key. Don't be silent. They often have hardship programs that'll kick in after 60 days of you being proactive. If you're not being proactive, if you're trying to be dodgy and not call them back and not do things, those hardship programs are not going to be enabled. But if they have notes and diligent record keeping of you trying to reach out and trying to be on top of it and not trying to avoid them, that's a good thing. So I know that when you applied for the forbearance program, that's great. Have you tried to call your loan officer and ask about financial hardship options? And remember to use those words, financial hardship, HARDSIP, financial hardship. Explain your employment situation, and trust me, they don't want to foreclose on you. That's an expensive process for them. And if they don't have to do any of those programs to offer, see if your state or local governments may have some sort of hardship programs as well. Because they don't want to kick you out, but if they don't have something, there is somebody else that might be able to help you. But that means you need to be the person to keep on seeking, keep on looking, keep on walking down this tunnel until you find the right answer. And I don't know which rock it's going to be that you're going to overturn that's going to be that one right answer. But I promise you, you have to just keep on flipping over rocks until you find the right thing. If you do decide that selling is the best option and you use the proceeds to wipe out your debt and breathe again, you're not starting from zero. You're starting over debt-free and substantially wiser. You can take this moment and just like Dominic said, say, good, what can I learn from this? How can I envelop this into my schema, into who I am, and become better for it later on? And let me say this too. You're not a failure because you're behind on your payments. This is a chapter. It's not the whole book. You said you're 35 years old. There is so much more life ahead of you. And before we close out, I do want to give you one final thought. Please give yourself some grace. You've been trying to survive. You've been hustling. And now you're trying to make smarter choices, even if they're hard. And that's exactly what resilience looks like to me. So if you need more help, please reach out. Housing counselors, there's free fee-only financial coaching like what I do. There's so many people who want to be there to walk with you on this journey to help you. And the most important thing is you need to walk this journey. They can walk with you, but they can't walk it for you. So just keep walking, keep trying. Eventually you will look back on this one day, and I know you hate this advice. I hate giving it. You will look back on it and say, thank God that happened because it got me to where I am now. We can't see the path right now, but only looking back, we say all these things. There's been times where I've known people who've been in awful relationships, abusive relationships, all of these terrible things. And while they would never want to go through it again, they realize that every moment of that relationship, of whatever they were in, got them to where they are now, to be a stronger, better person because they chose to make it about that. They chose to grow from it. Not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's doable. And I believe that you can do it.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. I loved everything you were saying there, and especially, I just want to go off since we have a little bit more time, but, you said you're not starting over, you're not starting from scratch. One of my favorite entrepreneurs, he failed 9 times, started a business, had an idea, built it up, failed, repeat. I'm not at 9 yet, repeat, and keep failing, right? But every time you fail, quote unquote fail, you learn something. And one of the quotes I heard this week that's been rattling in my brain is, and it's kind of broy. It's a little bit broy. I'm not going to deny this. It's a little bit broy. But the quote is basically, all failure doesn't exist until death. You know, it's all psychological. All failure is psychological till death. And then when you die, psychology doesn't matter because you're dead. So it doesn't really matter. Which is kind of a funny quote. So I'm like, one of those things that it just keeps running in my head. But I don't know, Chris, what do you think about that one?
I like your bro quote. I'm going to give you a different quote that's not so broy that I like. It's from Winston Churchill. And it's success is going from failure to failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. So every time, I mean, I've always liked the Warren Buffett way of looking at it. Imagine if you got a punch card that said 20 failures, you get success. And you run around trying to fail at 20 things so you can get that success. Now, I don't know on your punch card how many failures it takes. It could be 1, it could be 1,000, it could be 1,000,000. But I can say that if you keep on trying, if you keep on finding failures, if you keep on growing, you will get somewhere. You will get to success. Even if success is not what you envision, it will be success because you will have lived a life worth living. And that's worth something. So to our friend who wrote in, thank you so much. I think you're really brave. I think that you're going to make something good of this, but that means that you have to believe in it. So I know that you're a single household family. Please lean on your spouse, lean on, if you have kids, lean on your kids. Just try to stay as positive as you can for this because you don't want your kids to look back on this and be terrible if you even have kids. But lean on people. We didn't even talk about your spouse going back to work. There are so many options that you can explore.
Putting your kids to work.
But again, it all comes down to you.
That's
Put the kids to work.
There's so many. Get them to work. What are they doing? Bums, get them to work. I'm just kidding. But, you know, at a certain age, I don't know. You know, if they were like 15, like if my family needed help and I had a job and I was in high school, I would help. Right? I'm not trying to put that on their kids, but you know, family is a family. A family is a unit, a team, right? We got to do everything we can to help each other.
And let's hope that's not the situation. I know they're going to pull through it. Don't put your kids to work if they're little kids, but you're going to figure this out. I promise you. And please, in 6 months, a year, whenever you get through this, please write back. Let us know what's going on. And with that, Dominic, I say we get to win of the week. Would you like to go first or myself?
Let's do it. I'll go first. You usually go first. You know, we save the best for last. So, you know, if you know anything about me, you know I love food. I love talking about food. I love making food. I'm a bit of a big back, a recovering big back, trying to fix that a little bit. I've been going to the gym, obviously, consistently. But food is my kryptonite, and I love it. Oddly enough, I don't eat a lot. So, but I will say, so for my win of the week, I don't know what it is, and some of you might laugh at this, but I am absolutely terrible at making pancakes. I'm horrible at making pancakes. I don't know what it is. I'm literally the worst at making pancakes. I have made pancakes. I kid you not. This is no BS. I've made pancakes 5 different times, 5 different recipes, 5 different ways. Each one of them turned out horrible. I mean, genuinely horrible. The type you send back at a restaurant. And a couple mornings back, I was like, man, I'm craving pancakes, but I've lived this life. I've done this dance. It's not going to go well. And I make these pancakes, man. I was like, man, I'm excited. Like, I'm pumped. Like, I feel like I got a good recipe. You know, I had a little nutmeg, a little cinnamon, you know, a little vanilla. I'm on my way, right? I throw these things on the stove, flip them up. Guess what? They sucked. They were terrible. They were abysmal. I threw the first one out and I made 3 eggs and I gulped it down. I was so bummed, so disappointed. But one of the things that I think a lot of people will relate to is after I made them, I had a lot of work to do that day. And I had to live with the fact that I couldn't make pancakes. I was a failure as a pancake maker. And it legit haunted me. It was just pissing me off all day. I was mad all day. Stupid thing to be mad about. And my win of the week is the fact that for dinner that night, I went back and I made more pancakes. And this time, they were not terrible. They were edible. They were delicious. They were fluffy. And they were brown. They were good. A little bit crispy on the edges. And my win of the week is, and I kid you not, 7 days, this is my victory. I'm not BSing. 7 days is I made good pancakes this week. After basically 5 or 6 times of unedible pancakes. So that's my win of the week. That's my struggle of the week. A lot more other stuff happened, but to be honest, this is what I'm caring about right now. So, Chris, I'm going to hand it back over to you. Any pancake dilemmas in your world?
No, I not no real pancakes. My wife, she likes waffles, so she normally makes waffles, and I don't really try to eat pancakes or waffles in the morning because the carbohydrates make me sleepy. But that's a personal struggle. So my win of the week is I started going back to jiu-jitsu. So as you know, or many of our listeners know, I've been in the midst of a moving state to state. And in that time, there's a lot of work. I've kind of let my fitness fall to the wayside. But luckily, I went back. Started a new Gracie Barra gym. If you guys are watching on YouTube, you can see that I'm wearing one of my Gracie shirts. So I started training again. Found a really good gym. It's literally only 7 minutes from my house. So it's a 5-minute drive. It's an 8-minute bike ride. So every day now I've been hopping on my bicycle. I get to ride there. I found a nice, safe path that I get to avoid many of the major streets. So I found a way to get there without ideally getting run over. Well, if I end up not being on a podcast, you're going to know what happened. But I've been going every single day. And, I just noticed how much just training consistently again helped everything. So like I started training again. I started working out again. I start cold plunging again. Like all of it worked together and just having to get that spark started. Because I found everything was kind of lacking once that consistency went away. So I think that's a really big, important thing for us to remember. It's the consistency. It's starting small, starting with something. And that helps to knock down all of these other dominoes. So when it comes to financial independence, some of us are looking for I need everything to fall into place. Maybe all you need is one thing to fall into place. And that one thing will be the cascade to help all of the other things fall into place. I don't know what that one thing is, but I promise you, if you keep on trying, you will find that thing and it will get you to where you want to go. So with that being said, I'm Chris. He's Dominic. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. Please join us next week on Monday's episode. We're going to be talking about episode 3 of the FI Crash Course Remastered, Mastering Debt, Breaking Free and Building Stability. This is a really important one for helping people because so many people are mired in the muck. And unfortunately, economically, sociopolitically, I believe it's only going to get worse. So I'd rather be able to teach people now before the situation finds itself inside of a worse place. So I hope you've liked. Please leave a comment. Please subscribe. But most importantly, please share the FI Guys with a friend. Bring some along for this journey of financial independence. Bring them along for the FI Crash Course. We're okay professors, but there's better ways to do it.
I hope you have an amazing weekend. I hope you have an amazing week coming up. Make sure to stay smart, stay happy, stay healthy. And we'll see you guys on Monday. Later, guys. Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.